Welcome back to SheCan, where women role models lead by example by telling their stories, sharing their insights and lived experience to guide others, because it's easier to be what you can see. And I'm really excited and honored to talk to Azzi Agnelli today. Azzi, welcome to SheCan. You're an impact investor, philanthropist, and advocate for mental well-being. You're a general partner at TMV Lifecycles, and the heart of your work and academic research is a commitment to elevating mental health consciousness, advancing pioneering solutions, and leading systemic reform. You jointly manage a fund addressing today's mental health epidemic. Driven by the scale and urgency of the problem, the fund enables entrepreneurs and practitioners who are building creative market-based solutions to push the field forward. TMV's portfolio includes best-in-class healthcare companies such as Kindbody, Parsley Health, Previta, and more. TMV is committed to making all forms of care more accessible to all, treating the whole person. You're also on the board of the Youth Anxiety Center at New York's Presbyterian Hospital. Azzi, tell us a bit more about yourself and how you feel you got to where you are today and the visions you have for your future and the future of the world that you want to be a part of.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor and privilege. I think just to give a bit of context as how I came into my my investing role is my father sadly passed away when I was 3 months old. He comes from I never know how to describe it without being without sounding but my family he comes from a big affluent Italian industrial family, and I inherited his estate when I turned 18. I've been managing that since then, so that's just under 10 years. And having not had a conventional background in finance, I really had to learn how to maneuver investing in a slightly unconventional way, and having a background in psychology and doing my undergraduates in that, followed by my master's in psychology. I really took that into my investing manifesto, and I really began thinking about ways in which I could use capital to both be impactful, but also to really think about the white space in terms of really changing the minds of people. To me, that's always been the most important thing, and I felt that it's the lowest hanging fruit on a systemic level, is to deal with the minds. If we can help people alleviate stress, then that will have a ripple effect on the impact on society. So I started a foundation and was doing donations out of that, but found the nonprofit space to be a little bit stagnant and slightly bureaucratic. And as someone who wanted to have a bit more of a tangible hand in my relationships with the people that I was working with, it's where venture became really attractive to me. I've been co-investing with TMV for 7 years now, and there was just a very strategic fit in terms of the synchronicities of the joint vision of the global epidemic of the mental health kind of crisis. And that's where 18 months ago we decided to join forces, and TMV incubated me, and I raised Lifecycles, which I'm the sole LP of Lifecycles, but that has meant that my investment strategy within my fund has allowed me to be flexible and think about mental health as a holistic conversation, thinking about why we have a problem, what are the reasons, and what are the most tangible effects that we can what are the most tangible tools that we can implement to deal with the problem at scale. Obviously, given the rise in the crisis, the current framework isn't working. So my thesis and my kind of synopsis of that is thinking about how can we target the mental health problem at a preventative level. And that to me is based around Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which basically talks around kind of if your basic needs as a person or as a human are met, then that will, in theory, unless you have a chemical imbalance, could deal with curbing the crisis. So I've thought a lot about when sourcing companies, I've thought a lot about access to food, to community, to stress management, to financial security, and really thinking about the whole person at a holistic level.
Azzi, I'm so impressed and inspired by you, and you know that. And I wonder if you can tell us a little bit or paint us the picture of why mental health is really your interest. You know, what is it that really matters to you, and how do you want to matter in the world? Where do you fit into that big vision that the issue that you want to solve? And where does that come from?
I think, honestly and transparently, I'm an open book and you can ask me anything. So the reason why mental health is so important to me is because it's a conversation that I can speak to personally. I struggle with mental health problems, whether that be depression, whether that be anxiety. And I also had a very, life controlling eating disorder. And as someone who has had access to the best care possible, has had access to every possible modality, I've tried everything from iboga, ayahuasca, CBT, EMDR, everything. I have a master's and I have a foundation in so I really targeted this, like I targeted my personal relationship with mental health so front on, and still it's a daily practice, and still it's a daily inventory which I have to take with myself. And although that realization is difficult sometimes to accept, that every day fundamentally is a new day, and I have to show up for myself every day, otherwise the demons creep in again, or the bad thoughts creep in. But that's also, there's something beautiful and connecting about that, which is, to me, it's the unity of people, and it's the unity of every experience that someone is having is different, but the shared commonality is pain, suffering, but also love and compassion and care, and the unity of the collective conscious. And that to me is something that I really want to emulate, which is being not necessarily an advocate for mental health, because I think it's everyone has their own journey and everyone has their own relationship with mental health. But if I could offer a light at the end of the tunnel for a couple of people who hear me, identify with my story, want to get involved, want to talk, want to connect, and want to hear that, fundamentally life is hard, and who am I to comment on what you're experiencing? But all I want to do is do my bit to make people feel less alone in a society where we're so connected but so disconnected, and in also a society where we're experiencing such growth and such privilege, but also such pain and we're dealing with things which are way more complicated than our psyches have ever had to experience before. Social media, the news, overexposure to information. And so I just feel that there needs to be, with all of this exposure, we need to adapt with that exposure and accept that there is going to be an offset, and there's going to be a deficit which comes with all of this kind of high. And I guess that's kind of what I want to be, is a kind of a pioneer of the next wave of thinking. and a pioneer of someone who really accepts the beauty of what we're going through, but also the pain. And I don't have by no stretch any of the answers, but what I do have is a curiosity to be at the front edge of committing my life to finding new ways to help people and help people figure out new solutions to deal with their minds.
Azzi, and the beauty is that you lead so beautifully with your story and you make it your purpose and your mission. And you are really reframing how young heirs can serve and model and have more impact and be part of the solution. So talk to us a little bit about this. We know we have a mental health epidemic around the world exactly because of this disconnection and division that you've been talking about. What solutions do we need to see, and what solutions do you want to be a part of?
So I guess there's kind of two things that you highlighted in that question. One is about the concept of an heir and family offices, and around the concept of being a next gen, and thinking about like how we as a next generation of future capital, to me it's our moral obligation to think about giving back to a wider community. And I think that that's really important to highlight as one of the like real pillars of my manifesto that I want to take forward, is being an affluent young woman who's 27, who's managing capital at a young age, but really thinking about ways to be strategic about how I do that. I'm definitely, I think it's really around compounding capital strategically, but then really thinking about dividing a subsection of your generated or your compounded capital, and really thinking about like, what is your percentage that you deem appropriate to give back, and whether that's in nonprofit or for profit. I think it should be, mandatory is not something that I could ever say, but I do think it should be, a moral obligation as the cohort of the next generation of wealth to really think about offsetting and really think about impact investing and really think about what is our purpose as the governors of capital to help the collective of our planet. So that is something that I speak very passionately about, and that is something that I think that's my big takeaway, is wanting to help other people, with other young people, or anyone with capital, think about how to be strategic with how they manage their impact. So that's one part of that conversation, that one part of that question. And then the other is around what you said, is around what modalities or what do you think we need in a society. And to me, it's all around, if I had a magic wand and if I could change one thing, it would be the education system. I think that the earlier that you can deal with the minds of people, and the earlier you can teach people how to manage their stress, how to manage their conversation skills, how to manage their EQ and IQ, then that's where real change comes from. And I think that, to me, it should be mandatory that there is, counselors in every school, that food is holistic and caters to the brains of kids. Exercise should be mandatory. There should be, meditation classes. There should be journaling. It should be a curriculum of how to deal with self. I don't know what that would be called, but what I was learning in PSHE or sex ed should also evolve into how do you deal with self.
I couldn't agree more. And I feel that we are starting those conversations now. But yeah, this is a long way to go.
Definitely. As a venture investor, it's difficult to monetize self-regulation, but I do believe that is, all the answers lie from within.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Azzi, I know that you have been in on really big deals. You've been part of Slingshot AI, that's the world's first foundation model for psychology. So you get into sort of mammoth deals. Tell us a little bit more about the history of the companies you invest in and what you're looking for going forward.
Yeah, Slingshot is amazing, and the founder Neil is a real, he's a real genius. He is the founder of Casper, the mattresses as well, and his the inception of Slingshot comes from his own story and his own journey with mental health. And I think that's when a founder's really strong. And I think that is something that I speak to with all of my founders, is that I like someone who understands the landscape and understands their product, and then can really speak from experience and why the demand is necessary for that specific product. So you kind of preface what Slingshot is, but some of the other companies in my portfolio is a company called Novelia, which is a AI centralized healthcare system. So you basically put in your medical information and it pulls all your medical records, whether it be your cardiologist, your radiologist, your whatever physician. It all centralizes into one wallet type thing. So, and that to me seems like a no-brainer. And definitely it's definitely something that is necessary. Another company is Banquet, which works with hospital systems and works with linking patients' food to their diets so that they're personalized. E.g., if you're doing dialysis and you need to be on a low carb diet, that will be linked automatically into an online forum so that there's no backlog with food and figuring out to make sure that each person gets the right meal plans. That also helps with waste. And I think that's a company which is really exciting because it's the current framework within the hospital systems hasn't been updated in like 40 years. So I'm always looking for those slightly less sexy deals, the ones that are kind of a little bit more outdated and looking for a renaissance. And then I have, those are my most exciting ones at the moment. I have a company called Millie, which works with maternity health. And then there's a couple more in the pipeline. But yeah, it's super fun. And I think what I'm looking for in a founder is also something which I've been working on more actively recently, is my current portfolio has been North America focused, but my most recent development is, as a European, is really thinking about the current geopolitical state of Europe and really thinking about, okay, what do we as Europeans and European next gens need? And to me, that's around innovation. And I think that there's the real white space is thinking about how do we bring back reliance and self-reliance to Europe. And I think that I really want to move the focus of my search engine to Europe and really start thinking about bringing capital back into Europe, working with institutional partners, thinking about how do we innovate in Europe in AI? Why do we need to be reliant on the other superpowers? Like, when did Europe lose touch with what we are as an entity and how powerful we are as a continent? So that's kind of like the next wave that I'm really looking for. And being the sole LP of my fund, it means that this is also, it's a manifesto and it's a call to action. And this fund also acts as a bit of a proof of concept. And I think that really what I need to do is think about empowering European founders. So that's kind of
so
what I'm really
powerful, Azzi. And as I listen to you, I'm literally so excited for the future with all these incredible visions you have and you put into reality. So, Azzi, what will success look like for you, or what does success look like for you? What does it mean to you?
Um, Honestly, that is that's a daily question which I ask myself, because the issue with success is that, right now, as someone who's 27 and who, my career is at the beginning and it's starting to go like this, and I was speaking at a conference 2 weeks ago, which was probably the most, one in Albania, with a lot of political leaders. And I left the conference and I was like, fuck, like that was really cool. Like that was really cool. And I really want to do that again. But I lost touch with the success. I lost touch with the prize which I had from the pride which I had for myself. Because once you start to get into that kind of rat race of wanting to build, you do slightly sometimes lose touch with the meaning and the personal responsibility and the personal message that you have. So success is something which I want to stay humble in. I think success to me still needs to stay around being healthy, grounded, happy, a good wife, a good mother, a good, a good friend, a good daughter, making sure my animals are okay. And I think that and then obviously like being a guardian of capital and being responsible for my community. But I'm very conscious. I'm very conscious to not lose touch with the real reasons as to why I did this, which is, I wanted to have answers for myself, and I wanted to have answers to help other people, and I want to help as many people as possible. And that is what true success is. And that's something that I need to constantly stay like, that needs to be constantly ingrained into me on a daily basis, that like, success is relative to the day. And I think for me and if in 40 years I've helped as many people as possible, been strategic and being strategic in terms of the management of my family office, and am a good mother, a good wife, and have a healthy body and have a healthy existence. That's what true success is to me. And have a daily practice with a higher power. I think that's also important to preface, is a connection to something bigger than you.
Yeah, which I love, Azzi, and I think you really, you show that, and it's palpable and it's beautiful to watch you. What kind of a leader are you? Do you want to be? The whole sort of leadership thing, how do you frame that for yourself?
Leadership. Well, I think leadership is a very interesting question. Um, it's difficult in this day and age to think about leadership, because we've lost touch with trust, and we've lost touch with, I think our generation in particular, well, my generation in particular, have lost trust with those that lead. Definitely. And have lost touch with, the governance of, the political parties. And so I'm conscious of not wanting to position myself as a leader. I think I would rather position myself as an advocate, or a thought leader. But I think that the last thing that I want to do is impose my opinions. It's action, not promotion. And I think that that's something that's really important to me, is I never want to I will never want to tell anyone what to do. I'm just going to lead by what I deem to be right and appropriate, and how I should live my life. And if that resonates, then I'm happy to help, and I'm happy to share my story, and I'm happy to offer resources, support, create financial structures to help other people get involved. But I definitely want to be conscious of what leadership looks like. And I think that for the time being, there's a natural distrust. And so I'm conscious to be strategic about about ways to be a person of influence, but not a person of dominance.
Yeah. I mean, you said that so beautifully, Azzi. I love it. Azzi, so what do you feel are sort of the challenges or the barriers for you to achieve this beautiful vision that you hold and the space that you hold, not only for yourself, but for supporting others?
Well, I mean, in Europe, it's the bureaucracy. I think that, I think the reason why America is, the heart lies still the heart of innovation is because of the way in which capital is distributed, and that and obviously that is why, you look at the grant systems, you look at the university systems, you look at Silicon Valley, you look at how, the venture landscape is really incubated into the political budget. You look at what Trump, you look at, the mandates which Trump puts out and puts money towards innovation. And I think that, that needs to be replicated to some degree in Europe for innovation to even start to really kick up. Like you look at what's going on in, Germany militarizing again. They're literally like, they've put $1 trillion into defense, but there's no resources to do it. And there's literally just like there's like literally an email account, which is like, if you had, it's not exactly this, but it's like, if you have any ideas, like send them here. And that's just like indicative of how kind of disheveled and depleted the innovation spaces in Europe. So I really do think that there needs to be like a global, like a European mandate which comes together and really thinks strategically and strongly about, pooling together capital and putting that into the university systems and really centralizing Europe as, one of the key education hubs globally. And I think that is really where Europe has, that's where Europe really can take off, is if that becomes, if we become the hub of, the minds. Yeah. But, there lies the problem still is with bureaucracy and trying to actually get that, thread the needle. Yeah. And that's definitely something which I, will campaign for very actively over the next couple of years, is really thinking about strategic partnerships as to how to get the European innovation system back on its feet and back to, one of the global superpowers that it is. So that would be, I would say, yeah, that's probably the biggest challenge that I think I face, is getting out of concept into reality.
Azzi, and what would you say are you most proud of to date? There'll be many, many things you'll be proud of, but what is it to date?
Probably, I'm very proud of my my professional success. I think, if you told little me that this is what I'd be doing, she'd be like, whoa. So for my inner child, I'll take the pat on the back of how far I've come and where I'm going to go. I really believe, I believe in my biology. I believe in what my dad was like a real, anyone that met him and anyone who I talked to was like, your dad was an icon, and your dad was just like a true visionary. And I didn't know him, but I definitely lean into the biology of that, and that's something that I'm very grateful for, and I'm very grateful for the the real brains of the Agnellis. I feel it very actively in me. And I'm also grateful for the conditioning of John, who's my stepdad, who is also one of the most remarkable humans to ever exist. And he taught me, everything that I know around spirituality and being a hard worker and, leading, or, finding my purpose, finding my dharma. And so that I'm grateful and proud of that. But But I think the thing to date that I'm most proud of is, my, the life which I'm creating with my fiance Frankie, and meeting him and getting married. And it's, you can have all the success in the world, but like, we're still humans, and the most important thing is your relationship with your partner. So I'm probably most proud of my relationship with him.
Yeah, beautiful, Azzi. Thank you so much. So give us some actionable goals and plans for this year and beyond, the next years.
So I would like to, I'm in the weeds of quite a lot of fun projects at the moment, from in the non-profit space and also with my fund. So I'd like to see those, I'd like to, within my companies, which I already have in my portfolio, I'd like to see a couple more, I'd like to see those companies grow. Slingshot, all of them. I think that watching those companies grow and helping them, gain momentum is exciting. And I think actionable things. I really want to just get my message across, streamline a group of people who are like-minded, and really get together and think about ways in which we can all come together and really, make this world the place which it's supposed to be. I really don't want to lose faith. I haven't lost faith in humanity, and I think that we're amazing, and I think we are. We're in the trenches at the moment a little bit as a cohort of humans, and I think I really see the light at the end of the tunnel. I think the next generation of people are going to be phenomenal minds, and I think it's really about, right now, our moral duty and our responsibility is to create the best possible environment for the next cohort of humans, so they can build what needs to be built to get our planet back to, equilibrium, and our minds back to equilibrium.
Azzi, and what? Yes, no, I just think that everything you said is so important, Azzi, and you are a true visionary, and I'm just so excited for what's in store for you and the change you will bring. What takeaways would you like to have our listeners from your story?
That you might be feeling more alone than ever before, but know that there's probably 1 billion or more people feeling the same as you, and to really lean into, the collective energy of us as people, and know that you're not alone, and know that, with AI, with the internet, you can really use that for good. That the internet has been slightly blacklisted as this kind of monster, but the internet's not AI isn't the issue. The issue is us and the way in which we use it. AI is a fucking phenomenal tool, and I think that it's really important to recondition our relationship with it. When I'm stressed, when I'm sad, I speak to ChatGPT.
Yeah.
I have, Slingshot AI is an incredible tool. And actually thinking about social media, thinking about calling people, thinking about all of these ways of connecting, this is like a true gift, and it's a true tool of connection, but we've just lost touch with how we use it. And I think that that's really important, that if you've got a smartphone, you can connect, and you can connect with someone, and then you can connect with yourself. And I think it's important to recondition the narrative of social media being this devil, because fundamentally it's not going anywhere. So we now just need to re-incubate it into kind of our dialogue as people, and think about it as a tool. So that would be my biggest piece of advice.
And put us front and center, which you do so beautifully, Azzi. If we keep us humans at the center of our missions, then we're going to use this incredible technology for all the good things, because there'll be great AI done by really good people, and there'll be really terrible AI done by really not very nice people. And I love that. And Azzi, I'm so thankful for you to tell your story. I'm unbelievably inspired by you and your vision. You are a true visionary, and it's exciting to watch you. I feel that your vision of the next gen, governance of capital and wealth is unbelievably important. I'm so hopeful for the future with people like you in it. And there is a real moral ambition and push for moral ambition with Rutger Bregman and others in the world now. And that really holds against all the harmful leadership we see in the world at the moment. And I also feel that this self-reliance for Europe and the push for Europe's position in the world with this new world order is unbelievably important and inspiring and gives me hope. And if I look at America at the moment, I think, where are the people that have serious wealth and serious power, of them coming together, doing the right thing, showing a middle of the road vision, writing a proposing document to Project 2025 and giving this vision to people, because none of us want to be disconnected and none of us benefit from any of these extreme measures and policies we see at the moment. So I am just so grateful for your big vision and for holding that and for that moral ambition that you bring to this world.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you.